out the way. Get yours, stay alive. Bend over, been on a vibe. 10-4, we smoking.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Monday podcast. This is the Nikey Joe Show. I am Nikey Joe, and I'm your host. And today I do have a special guest with me who you all might recognize. It is fellow White Collar Rhymes artist and co-founder Pair-A-Dyce. If you want to let us know how you're doing today and introduce yourself.
I'm Dice. I am fine. I'm here. I'm awake.
So today we're going to get a little bit deeper into Dice's world than just being fine and awake, hopefully. But going to have a hopefully insightful interview and get a little bit deeper into Dice and White Collar Rhymes and his music and kind of like we have with all the other artists. Get to know him a little bit beyond what you see on the review show or on any random stream that he pops in, because he's on every stream. So Dice, how, I guess for your side, how involved are you and what do you do in White Collar Rhymes?
I don't know how to answer that.
I know, it's a hard one.
How involved am I? I just
like how
whatever.
are you?
How am I, or how involved am I?
How are you?
How
involved?
am I? How am I involved? Okay, I got it. I don't know. I just make sure stuff happens. So mixing, recording. Sometimes I'll make a beat. Making sure the server is running. Making sure the lights stay on, basically. I think that's it.
I mean, you do a lot. You kind of do what every single other person here does, plus. You do a lot. I definitely appreciate you for everything you do. For White Collar Rhymes, it came to fruition with you, D-Bird, and Nash. Nash is, I believe was the main there. Can you give us your side of how White Collar Rhymes kind of was founded and how you became one of the co-founders?
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, joined this, I joined a couple of forums, not 20 years ago, like 25 years ago, I joined rapmusic.com, and it was probably the biggest forum at the time. Then I joined rapbattles.com, posted on there on and off for like a decade, just did different things. And then I think it was like 3 years ago now, Nash was hitting people up and saying that he wanted to do some sort of tournament. I think I ignored him for like a month straight before I finally like opened up the message and then wanted to see what he actually wanted, because me and Nash hadn't really talked for a while, or at all, like because I stopped posting on the forum in like 2014 or 15. So I hadn't heard from Nash in a while, and he just starts messaging me about rap battles, and I was over all the forums and stuff. So I ignored it for a while, and then finally I was like, okay, whatever, I'll join. So we did the tournament. After the tournament, he starts telling us about this Discord server, because obviously the forums were dead at that point. So we joined the Discord server. And I don't know, just organic conversation just led to us like saying, why don't we collaborate more and actually do music now that everybody's grown up and a little bit more stable in their musical journeys. So that's kind of how things kind of formulated from there. Just Nash wanting to hold a tournament and relive some nostalgia.
Okay, so for White Collar Rhymes, it's been around since 2022?
2021, 2022 officially. Yeah, I mean, 2021 was when we had the tournament.
Okay. And for, starting, now 3 years ago, what has kept you motivated to keep on creating and this community of musicians and help making it grow?
I think the young people, seeing young new talent with fresh ideas. I mean, I'm always working on my own stuff, but hearing what people are up to and you know different creatives and how they come up with stuff, I think that keeps things moving and going. It's always going to be the future.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely get a lot of, younger people that I've seen you take under your wing and try to help. You always definitely try to help people, and you can tell that you see them as the future. For you being so, you've known, a lot of the other artists, for 20 years. How has your journey from then to becoming part of White Collar Rhymes and creating that, how has White Collar Rhymes, I guess, influenced your own musical journey more so than it did before, even though you've known everyone?
I guess White Collar Rhymes makes me take into consideration music I may not actually listen to or engage in because like everybody has their own styles. And like I said, I hadn't really talked to anybody off of the forums. There was one guy I talked to, Knowledge, but he doesn't really post on WCR. Outside of that, I didn't really keep up with anybody on the forums. Like everybody else had each other on Facebook or, other social media platforms. I didn't talk to anybody except for Knowledge. So being involved in this made me kind of take into consideration what other people are doing stylistically and adjust to that rather than just ignoring what everybody else is working on because I typically just do my own thing.
Okay, so it's definitely it seems like White Collar Rhymes has enhanced your collaboration too. Is there any? What's your favorite? Actually, before I get too deep, what's your favorite WCR collab that you've done? If you have one, you can think about it too.
Collab as in a song or a project or
Project. Well, I guess a song because you might not have done projects with everyone. You do have a lot of people that you've done projects with.
probably Pair-A-Dyce with Passive. That's probably been my
Okay.
favorite.
All right. Just was a side jot there. So what are some of the benefits and challenges you think of being part of collective versus doing music alone like were doing for so long?
The benefits are, sometimes there's something you need that somebody else can accomplish or help out with. Musically, if you need a hook or you need a verse, somebody can fill out a song pretty quickly. Or if you're, trying to plan an event, getting some other opinions. The drawbacks of that is taking other people into consideration. Spent 20 years doing shit by myself, whether it's recording, mixing, making artwork, releasing stuff. So you spend so much time doing that stuff. And then when you have to stop and take everybody else into consideration, it kind of slows everything down. So, it's slow momentum versus more opportunities and, other perspectives.
For sure. Definitely could see that you move pretty quick. I can imagine. I mean, when I see you do your own projects, you do bust out projects quick. So I could definitely see that being, a challenge, being part of a bigger group. How for your story in White Collar Rhymes, you have gifted people on stream and done such things to help kind of empower and support the community and growth in a more hands-on way than most other servers or review shows or communities. How does White Collar Rhymes support and empower artists in that way, and what is your role in that more, I guess, deep in a deeper level?
I mean, the whole premise of WCR was to be like, okay, you have a day job, you have family, you have other hobbies, but at the core of it, a lot of people still wish that they could do music. So the premise of WCR was to show you can have a day job, a night job. You can have a family and do all other stuff and still be a artist, a musician at the end of the day, a producer, whatever you want to call it. Because so many times I've come across people be like, "Oh, I don't have time to do music," or "Nobody supports my music," and then they just give up. And not everybody's talented. Some people are just hobbyists, but there's been some super talented people that just go by the wayside because they feel like it's not important or they don't get encouraged or
Mhm.
whatever the reasoning is. So the whole premise of WCR is supposed to be, look, if we can do it, you can do it. And so that's why I say the youth is the future, because if you formulate those habits early, like, oh, well, school is more important, or my mom said I shouldn't be making music, or I need to go get a job, then you're going to be the same thing we were 20 years down the line, be like, man, I wish I spent more time doing music. My role in that is like, anytime I feel inspired by somebody or I see somebody who has potential and I don't feel like they necessarily have something behind it, whether it's support, whether it's, a piece of equipment, whatever it is, I try to reach out to them and offer them some sort of individual help to show them that, because also we have competition out there. Like, we aren't the only music server. So I don't think any other music servers bought like 10 microphones and interfaces and, mix people's stuff for free. Like, I don't know, I haven't heard of any other server doing that. So I'm trying to show and prove people that it's not just a, hey, come watch us talk about your music and, goof off in the lounge. Like, we're actually here to like show people that they can get better and do better. That's my role, I guess.
Yeah. Is there? I definitely agree. You are one of the bigger, I guess, forces in white collar rhymes that actually will, do put out the footwork to really help our community members. Honestly, you've helped a lot of people, and you're very, very well liked in the server for not just that, but
Sometimes.
very. You help people. It's the surface level back and forth stuff you do, but everybody really does care because you help people. Is there any specific resources that you have given out or initiatives that you feel like have been the most impactful for that artist and hearing them before and after?
I guess the two biggest ones that come to mind are Passive and AWOL. Like, Passive just kind of showed up on our review stream. Super talented, kind of quirky style. I'm not really
Mhm.
into the whole intricate abstract music that he started out doing, but I knew there was something there. So I was just like, well, instead of us saying that song sounds good, but your quality sucks, why don't we just like help the guy with his quality? So got him a mic and an interface, and like he really championed that. And it wasn't just about like, oh, well, I'm gonna go off and keep doing my own thing. He like really owned that and like embraced it, and like he's basically changed the trajectory of a lot of things. And AWOL, AWOL is like same kind of style, same kind of motivation, but on like the opposite end. Like, he makes straight up nerdy ass music I would never listen to. But like, one of the first things he did was he reached out to me and said, hey, I'll pay you if you like can spend like a couple hours with me on a Saturday and like show me how to work Pro Tools and stuff like that. And he would show up to every stream and gift a sub. Like, even if he doesn't show up to the streams now, he'll still donate money in the background to keep the server like up and going and show how much it means to him. And even if his music isn't like the greatest to me, like, I can listen to before he started with our server and what he makes today and see like he's like trying and he's applying those concepts and things that we say, and like things that I tell him on the side when I'm mixing this track, like, you put in too many words here, and like I can tell he's like tweaking things and trying to get better, even if he knows that he's just doing it from a super invested hobbyist perspective. So I think like Passive and AWOL are the two biggest like takeaways that I see from any you know investment things that I've done for WCR.
Do you see those as when you see the people that you are, mentoring, basically helping out, when you see that kind of growth, does that make you want to push them harder, or does it make you, want to, just give them accolades?
I mean, it doesn't make me want to push them harder. I want people to feel empowered to do their own thing at the end of the day. If they want me to push them, I'll push them. Like if they come back to me and they say, "How's the song sound?" and I think it sucks, I'll be honest with them. But at the end of the day, I do it because I want people to feel like, they can go off and figure it out and do their, like, a lot of the shit that I do now, I had to learn on my own. So like if I was in my early 20s or whatever, and I had somebody who's already been there, done that, giving me like, hey, here's what I did wrong when I was your age, I would be grateful for that. So I think at the end of the day, as long as I know people are appreciative of it, that's all that matters to me. But if I feel like I'm wasting my time, then yeah, I'll just get petty.
At what point do you know that you're over that line? How many times, I guess, do you try?
Oh, I have a 3-time threshold limit, and really that's like 2.5. If I have to ask you twice, I'm not going to ask you a third time,
Oh,
because
damn. All right.
that just shows to me that it's not a mutual interest. So if I'm like reaching out to you, hey, what's up? People get busy, okay. Circle back, hey, what's up with that? Still no response, then that's on you. That just shows me that it's not important to you, so why should it be important to me? So really, I mean, I call it 3 strikes, but that third strike is really just you not responding, and that's recognition for me that I need to move on.
All right. So 3 strikes, and you're not out, but at least on the back burner and not important anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I
Anymore.
wouldn't say like anymore. Like it's a revolving door. If somebody like
Mhm.
even people I don't talk to, like I don't delete phone numbers. I don't. There's only been one person that I've like straight up blocked out of my life. So if you like hit me up 10 years from now,
Damn,
whether
Dice.
whether
And you're like the pettiest person. There's only been one person.
well, I mean, most people see themselves out the door, right? So like all the contacts that I have in my phone, like even if I haven't talked to you for 20 years, like you could hit me up tomorrow and I'll respond to you, but are you going to keep hitting me up? That's the question, right? People only show up when they need something. So if you only show up when you need something, then yeah, I'll respond to you, but I'm kind of acknowledging it's like a cat and mouse game. You show up for cheese, I'll give you a piece of cheese and then I'll just put the rest in the fridge.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely keep that cheese stacked. You always answer. That's one thing that even you always answer anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime anybody calls. You and VA answers too.
yeah, he's scum though.
Y'all are wild. So as kind of going back to how you do so much for our community, um, in the music industry, what role does community play that you feel like in the music industry? Since you are tenured, which I will get into that shortly, I want to get to know a little bit more of the background. And how do you feel like WCR does contribute to creating like belonging and supporting its members?
The music business in general is toxic as fuck. It's like one business where you can meet somebody who says they have 30 years experience and their whole intention could be just to screw you out of like $100. Or you can meet somebody who has 10 years experience and their whole motivation is to like, if you get a W, they get a W. So I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I it's one of those things where like I love it, but at the same time I can see how people get jaded by it and can hate it, because I've dealt with scam artists, I've dealt with people who don't have your best interests at heart, but at the same time I've dealt with people who are like 100% genuine. And then I've dealt with people who are genuine and cool people, but they will do absolutely nothing to help you because everything is a transaction to them. So I guess with WCR, I try to envision it of, if I could go back and correct some of those things that I encountered, what would I do differently? And that's just how I operate. So like I said, if I see if some artist comes up to me and he's like the dopest 17-year-old I've ever seen, and he doesn't have a microphone, like, why wouldn't I help him get a microphone? Like, it's a no-brainer. So, I mean, that's why I always put myself in a position of like all these like famous musicians that people idol. Like, if y'all walked up to them and like dapped them up, they're not going to help you out. Like, I guarantee you there's like a half of a percentage of them that will actually like be genuine back to you and like actually do something to change your trajectory. Like, that's the thing that I try to keep in mind is like, if I'm going to do something for you, I'm going to change your trajectory in life. Like, Passive never been to Texas before, and he wouldn't have been to Texas if he never met me. Like, shit that I do for people, I try to change the direction of their lives. I'm not just going to put a fire emoji under your track on Facebook and call it a day. And that's most of what you're going to get from people in the music business. So from me with WCR, if I interact with you, I'm interacting with you to see you grow from that. And if you don't grow from that, let me know what I can do differently, or maybe it's your own fault because you don't care as much as I care.
Mm-hmm. Damn, Dice, getting deep. For I guess the community that you do help, and you do help so many people. What do you think? Since you've started, your trajectory in White Collar Rhymes and what it has kind of evolved into, how do you think that it has, the involvement has impacted the original vision of White Collar Rhymes?
Whose involvement?
Of the community, how we furthered our outreach and things that we have done, even since I came through in, late 2022, it has changed so much, from the review shows, how they used to be compared to how they are, and the different shows we've gone through. How do you feel like, all of the community outreach and assistance has impacted, I guess, the original vision from what you guys thought it was going to be?
I think it's pretty stable and interesting right now. Like, we constantly hit like 20, 25 viewers now when we do our Wednesday shows. The lounge is pretty active day to day.
Popping, y'all are wild. I can't even keep up anymore.
We got several channels that do different things for different hobbies. Like, when we first started setting up the server, it was just like 20, 30 of us, all like old forum people, and Jacob, and then like a couple of Jacob's friends. So it was just like a bunch of mid 30-year-olds and a couple of teenagers, or I say teenagers, but I mean like Jacob in his early 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, to see it go from that to like 1,500 members, like people constantly tuning. Like, me and Passive did an 8-hour review show on Wednesday, and like 3 hours of that was just subscriptions and gifted subs. So to go from like me having to spend an hour before every show trying to find songs for us to just go leave random comments on the internet, hoping people will come back and ask, who the hell are you guys, to us just like, we log in on Wednesday and there's already like 4 hours worth of music waiting for us. It's interesting to see. So I think the community engagement is cool. And I think my biggest thing is just hoping that the people feel more empowered into it, and it's not just like core WCR people and then they just kind of like circle around whatever the hell we do. Like, if you want to go in the lounge and just like rant and rave about your day, fucking Joe Boston does that every morning. Like, nothing to stop you. Like, nobody's going to come in here and say you can't be yourself. And that's why I say, compared to other servers where people just kind of circle around an entity, like whoever the person is that started that, WCR is just kind of existing for people to come together and do their own thing. So it is what you make out of it. If you don't make nothing out of it, that's probably your own fault.
That is very, very good advice. There is so many different spots inside, like even Jacob said, snail racing when that was popping. There's so many different channels. Dice is normally the guy that you go to for those too.
Yeah, I mean, and trust me, I've jumped on like several different servers. I've watched other people's shows and like trying to see like what can we do better. And I haven't seen anybody like really compare to what we do. Like I said, it's like if I join another server, it's based around one personality and everybody kind of like circle jerks that person. Or if you join like a music server, everybody drops links and leaves. And like here you can drop a link and then somebody's like, what kind of music do you make? Are you looking to collab? Like you could end up with a collab the same day if you treat it with respect. If you just kind of jump in here and like, yo, I'm the shit, everybody should listen to my song, then that's the response you're gonna get. But if you come here like, yo, what's up? I'm trying to learn this, that, and the third, somebody else might pull up and say, well, let me help you with that because they got free time that day. It's like I said, it's what you make out of it. If you come in here like an asshole, you might leave an asshole too.
Yeah. So speaking of collabs, there's collabs always going on in the server. Yeah, y'all don't be an asshole. But there's collabs all over the server. How do you balance your individual pursuits, because you did individual music for so long, with the collective goals of WCR or collabs in the community?
Honestly, me personally, I don't really seek out a lot of collabs. They tend to just happen. Like, I'm pretty sure you can ask most of the people who've collabed with me. It usually starts with they'll send me an idea, and then like within an hour, I just send them back a verse. If I feel so inclined to like be engaged on it. But like if I'm making music for me, I don't necessarily make a song and be like, oh, I need so and so on this, or I need a verse from such and such. Like if I'm making a song, I'm making a song because I have like something in my mind that I want to get out and get into an art form. But like Ray Stans sent me Barn Burner, mixed it. He kept toying with it for months and months and shit, and then he sent it to me again, like with a new version, and I'm like, all right, let me. And Lamb was in the lounge one day, like, yo, who's got something to collab on? So I sent it to Lamb. Lamb put a verse on it, then I put a verse on it. It's like that's usually how my collabs happen. Is somebody like shares something with me, and then I feel inclined or inspired to like jump on it, but I don't know. I don't get a lot of asks for other than Cody Nash. He'll reach out to me in passive, but I don't typically just get asked to collab like that. Most of my stuff just kind of is happen chance.
Happen chance, happenstance.
Yeah.
So speaking of, sometimes you said that you need to write just get things out and such. Let's dive a little bit deeper into you and your creative process and journey. How long have you been writing? How long did you start? I guess, did your journey start with writing, or tell us about how you started in music?
Yeah. Started on forums in 1999, writing text to Caucasians on rap forums. And then I quickly learned that I hated writing text down because I don't know. For me, it's like watching sports versus playing sports. Like I enjoy basketball. I'll watch basketball, but probably like midway through the game, I'd rather just be playing basketball. So it got to that point where it's like I was writing lyrics, putting them on the screen, but it was just unentertaining for me. So I had to figure out how to make that transition to actually making my own song. So yeah, I started writing lyrics 1999 through the early 2000s, but I really started recording music in like 2005. I probably didn't really even get good at that for like another 10 years. So just a long journey of garbage.
So from 99 to 05, you were just on forums, or were you doing live stuff?
Yeah, I was in high school. I didn't have, I mean, we had like this little karaoke machine, and I had tried to record like a couple things on cassette tape, but of course they were pretty garbage. So I didn't really record anything until I went off to college in 2005 and had a dorm room to myself and a computer that I could actually put software on and record stuff. But yeah, like 99 to 2005, it was just mostly writing.
Okay. And then 2005, you started recording. Were you figuring out how to mix your own stuff? What was it like, I guess, in 2005 recording? How different is it now?
I didn't know how to mix shit. I didn't know what an EQ was or a compressor or anything was until I met Mr. Lee in 2008. So like from 2005 to 2008, I would just record do some panning and adjust the volume and call it a day because I didn't know anything else. Like if you told me to, I would always see people on the forums, like the good people at the time, be like, "Oh yeah, I do this with the vocals," and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. I just adjust the volume. I was lining shit up manually. I didn't know how to use BPM in the programs. Like I was literally like making remixes of songs. So like I get the instrumental. If I wanted like the hook from the song, I would splice that out, visually line up everything. Like I was doing everything manually. So by the time I actually learned how to use the programs, I was like in heaven.
You were like, this is so easy.
Yeah, you can set a BPM and then I don't have to copy and paste and like manually line up the hook. Oh, save my workflow hours.
So so basically your engineering skills. So for anybody that doesn't know, Dice is also an engineer. Do you make beats too, Dice?
I make
You
beats
do,
when I feel
right?
it. Yeah. I have a drum machine and a
Pretty.
keyboard that just collect dust.
And so he does, kind of. He's the triple threat, probably more than triple. But so for your engineering skills, I know that you stated that you didn't really start learning a lot of that until you met Mr. Lee. Can you go a little bit further into who Mr. Lee is and that whole, I guess, run of your music journey?
Yeah, Mr. Lee, for those who don't know, is a producer. He's from Louisiana, but people know him out of Houston. He was an in-house producer with Mike Dean for Rap-A-Lot Records. He's produced for Scarface, Jay-Z, Slim Thug, Paul Wall, like every Houston act. He produced on a Tupac album with the Outlaws, so like the Backstreet Boys, Twista, Lil Wayne, like anybody you can think of, he probably has a record with. And before Twitter like really like blew up, he moved to Dallas and he was trying to take over the studio. So he put out like, and of course I'd followed like all the Houston acts since like the early 2000s before they were like nationwide famous. They were regional famous to me. So like I followed Paul Wall, Slim Thug, Chameleon Air, and all of them. And I knew Mr. Lee because he was a producer. So following on Twitter and he's like, "Yo, I'm opening up a studio. I need some interns. Hit me up." So I hit him up, sent him my resume. Didn't think anything of it because I was unemployed at the time. I had just got out of another studio with the whole scam artist person. So I was like, all right, whatever. Then he hits me back and he's like, "Yo, come up to the studio so I can talk to you." So I go up there, shake his hand, meet him and whatever. Cool little moment because it's like you go from like listening to somebody's music for the last 5-6 years to actually meeting them face to face. I'm not like a starstruck or celebrity struck anything. It was just cool to meet him because he like genuine down to earth person. We crack jokes with each other all the time. But then he's like, "Yeah, you can be one of my interns." So it was like me and like 6 other people basically interning for him at the studio while he was in the process of recording Slim's next album at the time, The Thug Show. So, learning at like seeing him produce beats from like scratch. He taught us like how to use the actual gear in the studio. If somebody comes in, plugging in the microphones, routing the headphones, don't touch the damn microphone gain because it'll fuck up everybody else's session. Like learning like the intricacies of how to run a studio day to day. And technically I was the daytime manager of the studio. It was just as an unpaid intern position. So I was unemployed and I had to actually get a job at some point. So I had like this runway of like 6 months where I had to like cram all this shit in, and either that ended up into a job or I had to go get a job, and I ended up having to go get a job. But in that time, I formulated a friendship with him and just like learning those things from him. He taught me how to actually mix records. He taught me like, things that you should and shouldn't do during a session. Like, artist walks in, just like make sure you keep things moving while they're recording so that they can focus on what they're doing. So like learning those things, like it was basically like cram school for me. And it, when I talk about, I try to change the trajectory of people's lives, like that shit changed my trajectory, like totally. Like my music like was on the up after that because it's like, now I know how to mix. Now I know all the things that I've been doing wrong the last 10 years. Like now I can start making some corrections and some changes. And like the one thing that really I took away from that, it was his girlfriend at the time. Now it's his wife. But like I made a mixtape while I was there. Like I'd sweep the studio and shit, and I'd clean up everything. And then like the moment like I had free time, I was in the B room like working on my own stuff. So I put together this mixtape at the time, and then his girlfriend was like, "Yo, I heard you finished your mixtape," and she's like, "Let me buy a copy." And I'm like, "For real?" So like, yeah, she was the first person to ever actually give me money for my art. So she gave me 20
That's so
bucks.
cool.
And, you know, from that point on, it's like, I figured I should start valuing my career in music a lot more than what I was doing is just like recording and releasing stuff, recording and releasing stuff. So like, when I say they changed my trajectory and that's what I try to do, that's what I mean is like, change people's lives like for the better. Don't just like I said, don't just put a fire. Like he could have easily just been like, yo, that's dope. Like they even one time, and I still have the video on my YouTube page, we were finishing up for the day. He had just finished making some beats and he was like, yo, roll up with me to 97.9. That's one of the radio stations here. He's like, I got to host this freestyle competition and I don't really feel like doing it, but I got to go up there because I'm gonna give away a beat at the end or whatever. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm thinking I'm showing up there as like the studio manager or whatever. So I show up there. Him and his girlfriend are sitting there. And he's like, you ready? I'm like, all right, yeah, for what? He's like, you up? I'm like, what? so so he tricked me. And I was the other participant in the freestyle battle. So
that's so cool.
Which it was funny. I mean, like I didn't win because the other dude was like, he was like 2 weeks in a row winning or whatever. So like they already had like people calling in and voting for them or whatever. I'm not saying he rigged or anything, but like he already knew the system or whatnot. But he was prepared for it. I was unprepared of like telling people like, yo, call up and just say that I won just for the sake of winning so I can get a Mr. Lee beat. If I knew that was on the line, I would have, been on people's phones. It was cool. It was whatever, I freestyled and they got to laugh at it. So yeah, I have the video on my YouTube page. I'll post it in the lounge. I just made up some shit. But yeah, I mean, that's what I say is like, I could hit him up right now and talk to him on some friend stuff. Like I know when his kids were born, I know like I see him posting pictures of his daughter. Like when I say like me and him aren't that close, but like if I hit him up and I need something, he'll help me out. But at the same time, I respect that this dude makes like all his money from music and he's like on a plateau like way, way, way above me. So I've never been one of those people where I'm just going to like hit him up because I'm trying to use his notoriety or his name to benefit my own career. Like if I hit him up, I'm hitting him up as Leroy Williams, my friend. I'm not hitting him up as Mr. Lee. Can you do me this favor because I want you to put me on? So like, I don't know. That's kind of like my long-winded answer of how I learned the music side of everything. I learned business-wise basically came from him and him being like a dope friend and a mentor at the same time. And, those kind of connections I value more than anything.
Have you had other mentors like that in your music journey?
Not really. I mean, for a time when we were working on Slim Thug's album, one of the co-founders of Swisher House, shout out Mike Clark. I don't think he'll ever see this, but he's a wild dude anyway. For a while, he would come in, like whenever I was recording in the B room, he would come in there, he would see what I was working on, and he would talk to me. Like he was one of the first people who told me he liked my music, but he couldn't do anything with it. Like he was like, yo, I love your music and I see potential in what you're working on, but for Swisher House and what we do, I would have to ship you off to Chicago or something where people actually do more intricate music in order to benefit you. So like, I wouldn't say he was necessarily a mentor, but he was definitely like somebody who gave me some good advice from like a down to earth position and didn't try to just like scam me or like guide me somewhere I didn't need to be. Like he could have just as easily said, yo, I'll make you famous and give me X amount of money and send me to some dank club somewhere. And it turned out bad, but he was always honest with me. He was just like, yo, I like what you do, but I can't do nothing with it, but keep doing what you're doing.
So you have those mentors, we'll say mentors, role models, at least people that have helped you, I guess, elevate, your career in one way or another by teaching you or helping you. Can you tell us some of your biggest musical influences and how they have shaped your style as a rapper?
Uh, my biggest influences, I guess, would be Tupac, Chameleonaire, Royce the 5'9", Bone Thugs. Um, I don't know that they necessarily. I don't know how they shaped my career. I mean, I guess musically, one thing
Your
that I did,
style?
I think musically, one thing that I did pick up, like when Chameleonaire was first like getting bigger, like one thing before he put out his debut album, people always knocked him for it. There was like, why is he always singing all of his hooks? They're like, yo, I wish he would rap some of his hooks. And at the time, I didn't do any type of like singing or harmonizing any of my hooks. But like, I started to go back and listen to his catalog, and I'm like, you know what? If you can do it, why not? Like, if you literally can't find somebody to like fill that position for you, like, and you have the ability to do it, why wouldn't you do it? So I guess I picked that trade up for him. I guess from everybody else, it's just kind of like being fluid and not stuck in the moment, like having variety in your catalog. Like sometimes you feel like fuck the world, sometimes you feel like I like asses. And like I think with like all of the people that I listen to is like they're not just stuck in the lane of I need to be this type of artist and I'm never going to deviate from that. They have like a variety of songs that you can kind of pick from depending on how you feel each day. So I don't know. I guess I take that from it.
All right. And then I know that you said that I'm kind of backpedaling a little bit. You did say that you've done that freestyle up on that set. Have you done any other live performances?
Yeah, I've done a handful of performances. I performed at this club like 3 times. I've done the whole like where you have to sell a quota of tickets just to like get a slot in the performance, and then like the couple times I couldn't sell enough, I bought the tickets myself just to perform. Performed at the House of Blues a couple times. Like I've
Cool.
seen enough of the performance side of things to know that I don't really like it unless I was getting paid enough to make it worth it. Like
Mm,
it's a slow grind. Like if you're gonna go that route, be prepared to just be out at least 2 to 3 nights a week for at least 5 years before it feels like you've accomplished something. And I knew that wasn't for me.
hmm. Is there any specific? Would you say the freestyle and getting that opportunity given to you was your favorite performance that you've done?
Nah, I hated that shit. I don't like freestyling. It sucked. I don't necessarily have a favorite performance. I mean, nah, I wouldn't say any of them were necessarily memorable. I think just being up there and getting the experience helped, but at the same time, like I haven't done like big shows like Nash or anything, so there's nothing really valuable there for me to take away from there. It's just I did it. That's it.
Is Paradise ever going to grace us with with the stage again?
If the money's right.
You guys heard it here. You can book Paradise for the right amount. Um,
Yeah.
uh, for I guess going back to your early days, can you share any um, funny moments that you might have had, during your journey as a young rapscallion,
Um, funny
or maybe
moments
memorable
about
stories?
funny moments about me or about other people.
Either or.
Uh, I remember my first humbling experience was I was signed up to do this battle competition, this tournament on one of the forums, or was it? Yeah. And then like I was supposed to battle this dude who was like hot shit at the time, Chris Kane. I know some people know him. He's still friends with people like VA and everybody on Facebook. I was supposed to battle him, and he was like he dropped out of the tournament. And I'm like, I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to kind of like improve myself. So I like talking shit to him and everything, and he's like, and he did the same thing that Jay-Z did to Joe Budden. He was like, "Yo, who the fuck is Paradise that I need to be signing up for this tournament. Like, he knew who I was, but he was just like, yo, who the fuck are you that I need to be all up in arms that I need to join this tournament? And I was like, well, damn, just put me in my place. But he was right. I wasn't nobody at the time, especially like when it came to like song making and stuff. So I was like, well, that put me back to ground level earth, below sea level. But that also helped me to recognize that, like, if I really felt so confident about myself, I need to make sure that other people feel confident in my ability as well. So humbling from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Do you know where the remote in the living room is?
No. Did you look under the pillows?
Mm-hmm.
Did you look under your blanket?
You lose the remote.
Use the Roku remote, then. You can use the Roku remote. Okay.
It's always, I swear.
Yeah.
This is the number one thing.
When I was in the studio, we had a lot of funny moments in the studio. But one thing that was funny that was happening, one thing that made me really realize that like Mr. Lee was like a human just like me. He would always be making beats, but like he'd been making beats like a couple a day for like 20 years. So he like had these old hard drives, and he said he would just swap them out when he was like looking for a certain beat or he needed to sell some stuff. Like, he had a folder and he said, these beats are these, I sell these starting at 50,000, these start at 30,000, these start at 10,000, these at 5,000, and these I just kind of throw away to people, whoever I come across, and they just cool with me. So he's looking for this beat one day, and he pulls out this hard drive and he plugs it in, and he had it password protected. So he's like, well, let me type in my password. He types in something and says password incorrect. Kept doing that, and it was like, well, do you want a hint to remember your password? He's like, yeah. So the hint pops up, and the hint says, aha, I got you, bitch. And we just started busting out laughing, because like that was him from like 10 years ago telling himself, like, you should have remembered your damn password. So that from that point on, I started using a password manager so that I never got into a situation where me from 10 years ago is basically calling me a bitch for not remembering my password.
Definitely, you should probably look into a password manager, because
I still don't know to this day if he ever got in that hard drive or if he had to like pay someone to crack it, but that shit was funny.
At least it didn't like erase.
No, I didn't erase it, just wouldn't let him access it.
That's wild. Can you go further into, I guess, the other side of your music journey, and not the most humbling, but possibly the most challenging moments in your music journey? Whether it be on collab, specific people, or in a specific situation?
I don't know whether it was most challenging, but working with a scam artist was definitely the most eye-opening.
I want to hear a little bit more about that. I think that would be good for younger artists to hear about. You know, there's so many scams out there. They literally come to you nonstop, like, come sign with us.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a traditional scam. It was just like this guy, he used to be a tour roadie for Universal. So he had like access to contracts and like emails and contacts that looked very, very, very much legit. And what he did was he found these people who they owned the lease on a studio outside of downtown Dallas, and they were in the process of renovating and whatnot. So he used his credentials to kind of convince them, like, hey, let me help you guys renovate the studio, get some funding and all this other stuff. And his first thought was, I'll bring in some interns. So he like put out an ad on Craigslist, like internship with Universal Music and all this other stuff. So he's like getting everybody on the premise of like Shady Records and G Unit. Like, he had Young Buck contracts. Like, I saw his contracts. Like, he had legit contracts where he was a part of this, but I think his drug habits or whatever else got him kind of ousted from being in that group. But he brought like me and like 10 other people in as interns, but we would show up every day and wouldn't shit get done. Like, we'd just be sitting there, and like he'd have us like walk over to this restaurant a block away. We'd hang out. Like, one time we had to go and watch his daughter perform at some coffee shop, and then he like started walking around with his hat out like, yo, can y'all donate like $5, $10 for my daughter and shit? Like, mad suspect shit just started adding up to the point to where like everybody else was just kind of like dropping out of the running except for me. Like I was like the lone, like you can call it survivor somewhat, but because I wanted to see like what is this guy?
You're like, how far is this gonna go?
Yeah, like that's me. Is like if you're gonna scam me, like I'm gonna see what is the threshold that you're willing to go to before we just kind of have this face-to-face stare off of like, hey, you're a fraud. So like the dude, he was like going out of town one time, and he was like, yo, can you meet me at the gas station around the corner? And he's like, hey, I'm trying to rent this car, but I don't have my driver's license. Can I drive your car and then you take my car? Like shit like that. Like we walk across the street to this other venue, and he was like, yo, we're gonna rent this place out and start a nonprofit and then run like events and promos for artists through here. I need you to co-sign on the lease for me. Like strange little shit like that he was doing. Even like check cashing scams. Like he was like withdrawing money out of these people's account and like basically overdrafting for like tens of thousands of dollars. So like I'm watching all this shit add up, and I knew he was a cokehead because like one night we was there all night and he was just like spaced out, eyes wide, like, yo, we need to do this. We were putting speakers facing the wall and shit, just weird ass shit that just didn't add up and make any sense.
God, guys.
And like you got to remember, like all this time, like we didn't do barely anything in the studio. Like we recorded like one song. So I'm just seeing how far the fucking shit would go up until the point to where like finally I reached my last straw. Is like I messaged his dad, who happened to be like the partner at a law firm, because I got a phone call from American Express. They're like, yo, we have your name in relation to such and such checks cash. And I'm like, nah, this is the dude you want right here. So I gave them all his information. Then I sent an email to his dad, and I'm like, yo, get your son and get him the fuck away from me and tell him never to contact me again, or I will do whatever I need to do to file a lawsuit against you and your son. And then from that moment on, I never heard from him again. But yeah, that was the situation that I left going into the Mr. Lee situation, which like kind of like it taught me like what not to do. Like don't just like shake hands with somebody because they have experience or knowledge about something, because they may just like guide you into the darkest of tunnels, and all they're thinking about is how I can screw this person over and shake your hand at the same time.
After going through, a situation like that where it was basically a bullshit internship, how did you easily, I guess, trust the internship you were going into with Mr. Lee? Like, were you like,
not easily, no. Like, I mean, first and foremost, is like, yo, is this even Mr. Lee? Like, am I driving out to even meet Mr. Lee? And it was him. But then it's like, yo, is this real? Like, I mean, but he was upfront about it. He's like, yo, I'm not, it's unpaid. If things work out, maybe there's a potential, but he never made anybody promises. Like, he always looked out for me and other people. Like, if I had to come up there on a Saturday and like stay there all day, like he'd give me $100 or something like that. Like, he helped me out, help everybody out on the side, like, because he was a good person. But like, yeah, it was kind of like shaky going into it. Like, yo, I literally just got out of this bum ass internship a month and a half ago, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe Mr. Lee, guy who I've been listening to music for like 6-7 years, worked with all these other people. I'm supposed to believe like, yo, he wants me to come intern for him. Like, all right, bet, I'll see. But then like, things start happening. Slim Thug shows up. I see Mr. Collie. I got to go let Mr. Collie park in so he can record some shit for, I don't even remember who he was working with at the same time, but it's like, yo, David Banner might show up. Can you keep the studio on and ready just in case David Banner, like stuff like that started happening to where it like legitimized. But yeah, it was definitely kind of like rocky at first.
All right.
Like, all right, yeah, cool. Internship. Looking forward to it.
So for the internship, obviously it's unpaid. How hard was it to balance? And even still today, I guess everybody has to balance your actual, real life responsibilities and your real life internship that could possibly turn into, you following and being able to, work doing your dream.
It wasn't hard at the time because I had gotten laid off from a job, so I was literally unemployed. I was getting unemployment, so it wasn't hard to commit myself to. I mean, time wise, it was like chaotic because studios work at the whim of artists, right? Like you can't say that you're open. I mean, you can say we're open from 9 to 5, but like some artists only record from like 5 p.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning. So it's like, we had to work in shifts. Like I'd cover like the day slot, then there was a nighttime manager who covered like the night slot. Um, sometimes artists might show up on the weekend because they're traveling and touring. Like it wasn't necessarily hard because I didn't have a job at the time, but it was hard because like I said, I had like a short runway. I had X amount of money left on my unemployment. So it was either this pans into a job or this one little opportunity that I thought I had at the music industry was just going to go away and I'd have to get a real job. So, I think that was probably the more stressful part is like, yo, am I never going to get this opportunity ever again? Or is this going to actually turn into something real?
For sure. For now that, obviously you have a son, how do you balance your personal life with, your, I guess, with WCR and, your own individual music and everything, and work? How do you maintain a healthy balance?
I don't sleep.
You don't sleep. Okay.
I do most of my music between midnight and 3 a.m. So
what
like
does the schedule Pair-A-Dyce day look like?
I wake up at 7, an hour before my alarm goes off. I cuss under my breath. I check my phone in case I have 1,000 Teams messages saying your product is broken and I need to shit myself. I go back to sleep until my first alarm goes off at 8, cuss some more. Second alarm goes off at 8:30. I convince myself I need to get out of the bed. I show up online by 9 a.m., make sure that my icon is green, scroll through Twitter and the Discord for about an hour, bullshitting until probably like the first official meeting at 10 a.m. Do some shit, probably have meetings on and off up until like 12, 1 o'clock. 2 p.m., I probably finally actually start being productive at work. Be productive until about 5, 6 o'clock. Then I'm like, fuck this. I'm off. Check and see if there's anything music related that I owe people for the Discord. Hang out with my kid until like 9, 10 o'clock when he goes to bed. Then from like 10 to midnight, I eat dinner. If I haven't eaten by then, midnight to 3 a.m., I make music.
Jesus, Dice.
That's my typical. That's like my average summary of a day.
That's wild. That is jam-packed, and it doesn't sound like you take any of your own time for you.
No.
I guess unless you consider that your music. But I feel like you spend a lot of your spare time helping people like me. Sorry.
What is time?
Nothing. Do you have any upcoming projects that you're working on right now? I know you just released a shit ton of projects. But
Yeah, we just
schedule.
finished mixing me and M Theory's project. So right now we're trying to just figure out the artwork and then we need a name for it. But I just need to finalize a few mixes and then master that. Knowledge has a whole boatload of songs, some of which I don't even remember that we recorded over the last decade or some shit that we're gonna touch up and release as a project. I probably have like 12 to 14 songs with Passive that I plan on revisiting and doing that as a project. I have beats picked out, and I think we've done like 3 or 4 songs for Orange Paint 2 with Jacob. And then I think I have enough beats and ideas that I want to do 2 more albums. And that's the stuff that I at least have on my radar. Oh yeah, and I told Gonz I would do a project with him.
Jesus, Dice. So on top of how busy you are with only 2 hours a year, I agree, Passive is wild as hell. Now you're also, have these other upcoming projects too, a lot of them, it feels like. What challenges do you generally face, like trying to juggle all those?
Having to show up for my day job, that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Having the biggest challenge for me is knowing that I have to do something for like 8 or 9 hours a day that draws me no inspiration. And like
Yeah.
I sit right there for like 10 hours wishing that I was sitting right here for 10 hours. Like I literally took a week off last month just to do music stuff, and that's all I did for a week. Like I didn't take a week off to go on vacation to hang with my kids, makes me a bad dad. Didn't take a week off to sleep and catch up on eating and make myself healthy, even though I said I was. Like I literally just did music for a week. So it's like sitting right there is my biggest challenge because I wish I was sitting right here. And like it sucks when, because the job I have, like people are so passionate about like, oh yeah, we want to do this for our customers and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm sitting out there like bored out of my mind because all I want to do is be an artist and I can't. So that's my biggest challenge, is having to maintain a day job in order to support like my bad habits.
So for your has that always been, since your aha moment in music when you realized you wanted to record and pursue it, has that been your goal, is to become, live off of your artistry?
I think it's been more so my goal in the last 5 or 6 years. Once I started to learn how the business really works and like feeling like there was things that I could, if I had access and resources to do, that I could make it sustainable, and trying to figure out how I can reach those points. I think it hasn't always been a goal. And even from the music side of things, like I don't necessarily need to be an artist. Like I would do anything to be an A&R for a label. Like the shit that we do on the review show where I'm telling people like within 20 seconds the song is ass or it's a hit. Like I would do that for a label if they paid me what I'm making right now. But the problem is like resources and access. Like I can't just walk up and get a job doing that, even though I feel like I could do that job in my sleep. So it's just like figuring out how to get in where you fit in, basically.
Hmm. What are your, I guess, in that aspect, in the industry and where it's at now, as opposed to where it has been in the past? How do you feel like the current state of the industry is? Is it easier? Is it harder to,
It's
live off of your artistry, I guess?
My perspective is it's 10 times harder than it was 20 years ago. And I know everybody, all the prominent people in the music business will say, oh, it's so much easier. All you got to do is like get a microphone and upload your music and promote it every day. That shit is not easy. Like you drain so much energy and time like posting on social media. Like there's so much competition now. There's like
Mhm.
tens of thousands of people uploading their music there's no filter on who can now compete with you. Whereas before, yeah, it kind of sucked that there was gatekeepers where, you had to go through X, Y, and Z to get a deal. But I don't got to go through anybody to get a deal. Like you don't got to go through anybody. Like literally all of us watching this right now, we can sign up for DistroKid and we can all have our music uploaded within a week. There's no like threshold of who gets on there. So like I got to compete with you and I got to compete with Jay-Z, Drake. I got to compete with everybody else. Like it's harder now to me to compete as an artist. On top of that, all the changes that have happened in the music business over the last 20 years are not in favor of the artist. Like the whole mixtape era of like, well, why should we pay for music when I can download mixtapes for free? Like that shifted like the whole concept of what is the value of music. Because if I walk up to somebody who's working in corporate America and I say, hey, my plan is to make 100,000 a year being a recording artist, they would tell me to get a real job. But at the same time, driving to and from work, they're going to listen to music, they're going to sing their favorite songs, and they're going to enjoy the shit. But if you tell them that's what you want to be without that notoriety of like a label or somebody else backing you, they're going to say that's not a realistic thing, go get a real job. So this whole battle of like what is art and the value of art on top of like all the competition that we have, I feel like it's infinitely harder to be a musician and an artist right now than it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, because all those things added up just means you have to be so fucking lucky to get put on, or you have to be rich as hell to keep investing money in yourself to get noticed, that it's just working against like 99% of the people out there.
With that being said, do you feel like the expansion of the different genres and subgenres that exist today as opposed to 20 years ago has helped or hurt the industry?
I think it's just made everything like smoke and mirrors confusing. Like you got so many subgenres, it's like people just make up shit just to try to stand out. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, I don't know, but it really doesn't make any difference to me. I mean, good music is good music. You should know good music when you hear it, regardless of what genre it is.
I feel like that's how a lot of it does end up, spinning out, and where people are like, oh, it's so much easier now because there's so much more, different genres and such. But I feel like there was so much more opportunity even when my dad started music back in the 60s, than there is now. It's so different. Although you can do a lot more yourself now. I definitely agree with that. In the industry, is there anything, I guess, for advice for young artists that are trying to look for a label? Is there anything that you can advise them to, keep an eye out for and such inside of the industry? Especially because there's so many resources where you can do your own stuff.
The biggest advice is if you really want to be a semi-famous or famous artist, put money aside for advertisement. Don't rely unless you just have unless you're super popular and like hundreds of people and they thoroughly support what you do. And when I say hundreds of people that support you, I don't mean like people who are going to put the like button on your post on Facebook or Instagram. I mean, like if you say, hey, I'm going to perform at XYZ show, I'm going to go perform at Six Flags, I need 20 of y'all to buy a ticket to Six Flags that day, go to where the stage is and hype me the fuck up. Like, that's what I mean by support. People who will actually like move their bodies to go where you are. So unless you have like in-person support, save up money to advertise, because your close circle is not going to be your support system. They're not going to be the people who fund your career. It's strangers. So you have to invest in strangers and the hope that the strangers will resonate with you and spread what you do more so than the people that you know. Because if the people that you know are going to support you, they would say, hey, don't worry about working. We'll all give you $100 a month or whatever fucking amount you need to sustain yourself, and you shoot for the stars. But the likelihood of that happening for everybody who wants to be an artist is super low.
So for people being even discovered, how often you've seen a lot of different, I guess, sides of the music industry, from the community side to the forum side to being in the studio with people, or working in one. How often do you think that percentage, like actual reality ratio, is of people being discovered?
It's hard to say. I mean, nowadays, the only way you're really going to get like discovered the way that we think of being discovered is for you to be some sort of moment in the social media world, either a gimmick or like you just happen to get like boosted
like a
up.
Doja Cat.
Yeah, even Doja Cat, I wouldn't say that she's like a gimmick, because fuck, her parents are involved in the music industry or something. Like her cousin is like what's his name, BB No Money or some shit. Like in order for you as a nobody to get put on, you got to be lucky. Like, so if you want to just, you're not going to walk in front of Atlantic Records and freestyle for an A&R and get a record deal anymore. That's just not going to happen. So either you want to be some gimmick social media influencer who happens to get viral and capitalize on the moment, or you need to just do some like ground roots build up, like get to know people and actually shake some physical hands and work your way from the back end. Because like a lot of the people that are famous now, they started as like street team folks. And then once they got their opportunity, or they were ghostwriters, or they were like writers for somebody else, like the dream was just a writer for forever. Well, you got to just work your way up. But I mean, if you want to be famous now, I suggest you just post on social media every day and pray. It's the best I got for you.
Post and pray, y'all. Post and pray. Has there been any times, I guess, that you have, besides obviously going up and doing the freestyle and such, where you have, I guess, where was the highest point in your career so far where you feel like you have been, on the brink of that success pivot? And I guess, what is success as an artist to you?
It's hard to say. I mean, I used to manage my own website fully, like building it and everything. And I always used to count like the stats of like the views and the downloads. And like I always managed to get like good, consistent downloads. But I think when I re-released like a couple of tracks and I like crossed the 100,000 threshold and stuff like that, it kind of made me feel like I was doing something right. I mean, even if I did a lot of stuff wrong, at least I got something right where I have songs out there that get regular play without me, lifting a finger on it. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
yeah, it does. It definitely does. That's definitely a pivot point, where you feel like, okay, now I'm like actually, you're being heard.
Yeah, like I mean, 2 months ago, I finally decided to fix the capitalization in my name. So forever, like there was this producer that I worked with that I met while I was working under Mr. Lee, and he distributed some music for me, but they lowercase the A in Pair-A-Dyce. So it's been lowercase Pair-A-Dyce for like since 2009. So finally I'm like, okay, I'll fix that. I'm big and bad now. I got my name as an LLC. I'm me now.
Mm-hmm.
I need to acknowledge that. So I hit up Spotify and my distributor and everybody, and Spotify is like, we don't change capitalization. You got to make a whole new artist page. So I literally had to move all my stuff from page I had for like 15 years to new page. And, like magic, it went from like 0 followers back up to like 1,500. So like, I guess that's some sort of sense of accomplishment to know that like, I don't have to like fabricate anything. Like I can literally like flip a switch and the shit just goes back to how it was. So there's that, I guess. Everybody's level of accomplishment is different, right? And I saw somebody, I can't remember who said it. I wish I could, so I could not, steal the thunder here, but they were like, you got to stop comparing yourself to people that you look at and that you admire or that you see online. Like everybody's level of accomplishment is different. Like I could have 0 fans streaming 0 songs right now. I'm fortunate to have like 1,500 fans globally who will stream my music. So I can't sit here and be like, yo, I'm not as successful as Loose Logic because Loose Logic has 3,000 people streaming his music. That's just like the next goal for me. So it's like, if you only got 50 followers, be grateful for that you got 50 people listening to your music, because it could be 0. It could be 1.
Facts. I think my first 20 cents, I was like, holy shit, I made money.
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I was making like $1 a year off of my like BMI checks and shit. Like I was gloating like, yo, look, I got my every 3 months $2 check from BMI, and I wasn't making shit. And then I started making hundreds, and I'm like, oh, I should feel proud of myself, because I went from like literally nothing to actually making money on a hobby.
For I guess royalties' sake, let me get into that side of the industry. For streaming, we know it doesn't hardly pay shit. However, it does pay. How do you feel streaming platforms becoming more prominent, I guess, than radio has impacted even your music or the industry as a whole and being heard?
I don't know. I mean, personally, I think
it's helpful or hurtful, I guess.
personally, I think it kind of sucks. I always wish that the more popular artists took more stock in themselves. Like, I always use Joe Budden as a model of things that I try to accomplish, because not musically, but things that he did post his music career, where he has a Patreon, and like people go subscribe to his Patreon for the content that he puts out. Like, people aren't people still stream his music, but like if you want what he's doing today, you go subscribe to him directly. So like I wish it went that route of like the Jay-Z's, the Beyoncé's, the Rihanna's, the Taylor Swift's. Is like everybody has their hub of what they do, and if you really like that artist, go support them directly, because then all the small artists like ourselves would have some sort of precedence where when I say, hey, my CD costs $5, somebody's not batting an eye to give me $5 for 12 to 14 songs of music. But you know, right now, if you ask somebody, yo, pay $5 to get like monthly access to my music, they'll like sniff their nose at you, and then they'll go subscribe to Netflix and Hulu and shit for $20 a month. So it's like, yo, and that's why it kind of circles back to me, like the people around you aren't gonna if the people around you aren't gonna give you $5 a month to support your music career, like what makes you think a stranger is? So like you got to convince a stranger first. If you can convince strangers that you're worth investing in, then the people around you are gonna fall in line and be like, yo, I knew him when he wasn't making no money. That just comes with territory. So I think streaming is like, it's hurt art as a whole, not even music, like, you know, drawing, newspapers, like all the shit that we used to fucking like rely on the arts because they were staples of our lives have like dissipated, because everybody's like, I just want to pay $10 a month and have access to everything. And I wish it was like, well, just pay me $1 a month. Fuck, whatever you can afford, give me that dollar. And that shows me that it's worth it to you for me to keep doing what I'm doing.
For sure. Do you feel like there's anything specific, maybe any advice specifically that our, listeners can, I guess, take away with them on how to, keep their fan base engaged so then they do have that network?
Keep your fan base engaged. I mean,
What do you do to keep your listeners, I guess? You consistently release.
honestly, it's authenticity. Like the moment that people feel like you aren't who you say you are, people tend to check out. So being authentic, like a lot of the things that I do right now, social media wise, like I'm interacting as Pair-A-Dyce, but I'm not interacting like, yo, listen to my music, y'all. I'll put my music like once every like 20 days or something. But like all the interactions that I have are just on a human level. Like, hey, this person's funny, I'm going to follow them. I'll like their posts. I'll comment on the shit that they're doing. Like, because I even used to do that shit where I just post my music all the fucking time. And like, whenever I see somebody right now and all they do is post music or the same shit every day, like that shit is so like dehumanizing. Like, why would I want to see you tell me to do the same thing every day? Like, just be a fucking real person. So I think if you want to engage fans, treat them like normal people first, and then say, hey, I also do music, so if you like me as a person, you can support me as an artist. I think that's probably the most reasonable approach right now, unless you just, like I said, want to get viral and get lucky, because then you just have to be in your face with content every day.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely takes a lot of content, and a lot of content that a lot of people don't have time to do. If you're not consistently out there, I guess, hitting the pavement too. For the listeners on how to, I guess, since the industry has changed so much since you started, how do you stay relevant in a changing industry?
You don't. Shit. I mean, if you really want to stay relevant, like I said, save up money for advertising. Like, that's the best I can tell you. Is unless you're in people's faces, you don't stay relevant.
So for, I guess, on that aspect, how beyond, I guess, merchandise, or I guess beyond music sales, how do you generate income with like merchandise, endorsements, live performances, stuff like that as an artist? I guess on that side, if you're, save up a little bit of money for advertising, if you need to
Yeah, I mean,
generate further.
so if you are going to go the performance route and that's what you prefer because you like being in smoky filled clubs with alcoholics every other night, then selling merch is your best bet. Always have at least $100-$200 worth of merch with you that you can sell and like re-up that. Because if you get people buying your merch, that means they care enough that they're going to give you some money. I don't know. Other ways, I guess, is just like right now, the avenue that I'm trying is sync licenses and getting in sync libraries. So there's different services for that as far as getting your music and placements in TV, film, music libraries for people to use and like, background music for their videos and stuff. So, I mean, there's other ways to go about making money. Otherwise, it's like I was saying, it's like grassroots stuff of like making a Bandcamp or a Patreon and seeing how many people can you encourage to invest in you, the person, versus going on Spotify and just maybe they'll listen to it and give you like a fraction of a penny.
Yeah, a fraction of the penny. It's terrible how little you get paid for streaming. It really is crazy. So yeah, when you get that first little bit of money, it's pretty cool. But definitely I feel like a harder industry to generate income on if you're not, getting the residual income from sync licensing or something else. For the I guess for the side of it, for royalties and such like that, any advice on a newer artist on publishing houses if they need one, which PRO to use?
I mean, the basics of it is register with a PRO. I can't tell you how many people over the last even decade that I've had to convince to sign up for a pro. People who release songs, like I think that's the main transition people did or didn't make, like from the early 2000s, is like that was one of the things that I learned from Mr. Lee is like, well, like you're releasing all this music, then what? Right? Like, what is your plan after you release it? Like, are you getting residuals? Is it getting played somewhere? So registering your music with a pro, it solidifies your catalog, but B, if somebody somewhere happens to stumble across your music and play it on an airplane or in a club somewhere, you get paid back for that stuff. If you go do live performances, you can tell your pro, like, hey, I performed these 8 songs on this day at this venue, and they will pay you back for that stuff. Like, all this stuff, like I said, unless you just don't care and this is just a hobby to you, if you like want to see the fruits of your labors, investing on the paperwork side of things is just as, if not more important than just making actual music.
Invest in yourself, y'all.
Yeah, like register your stuff. Literally, like I can go back and I can thumb through my BMI catalog and tell you every song that I've done because I register it. If it's not on there, then it's on my hard drive, and that just means I haven't released it.
So going back to that, all the basics, all the deep stuff, since you do have such extensive, I guess, rapscallion history, what are some of the key lessons that you think that you have learned about the business side that possibly, if you had learned them earlier, might have changed the trajectory of your career?
If a song sucks, don't get in your feelings over it. Like if somebody doesn't like your song, it is what it is. And you might think it's the greatest song in the world, but if 10 people tell you it's ass, it's ass. Just enjoy it by yourself in the closet in the dark.
How do you handle criticism and when it comes to your or negative feedback from any fans or other, artists or critics?
I don't know. I stopped looking for feedback from people. I mean, like I said, if I collab with somebody, it's just on a whim, and either they like it or they don't. Either they use it or they don't. But criticism happens. Like I got criticized enough the first 15 years I was doing it that I'll just move on to the next song. And I say this all the time, is like not everybody is destined to be a fan of what you're doing. So like maybe there's just some people who aren't your audience, and if you run in a continuous circle of trying to appease people who aren't your audience, you're just gonna drain yourself creatively.
Definitely seems like something very I guess full of pressure, part of the industry, and part of your journeys is that that pressure to do better, I guess, to meet other people's expectations.
Yeah, I think that's people's downfall, is if you're trying to meet other people's expectations, that means you don't have any expectations for yourself. Like I gotta please myself first before I even like think of sharing a song with somebody. Like I might get halfway through writing a song and say this shit sucks, and I'll stop writing it. I may like write a whole song and go to record it and realize like I don't know how to make this flow work the same way it did in my head, and I may give up on it. I may record the full song, mix it, play it back one time and say it sucks, and then I'll never play it ever again. Like I have to get through my own expectations first before I'm worried about some person who wasn't here while I was going through the whole creative process.
How do you handle when you have blocks in your creative process? Do you generally work through them, or do you just like, okay, I tried this enough and this just isn't for me?
Just work through it. I mean, one thing that I did pick up from my day job that was valuable is I was at a convention, and one person who was a speaker, I think it was Jack from Twitter, somebody, but he was like, he was describing like he was a apprentice for this like art shop or this woodworker or something, and like he messed up one time and he kept having to redo it, and like he said like the outcome from that is like art is a renewable resource. Like it's one thing that no matter what happens, like new art is constantly being generated and created by something. Like even yourself, if you feel like you hit a roadblock, at some point you're still going to make something different. Like you can put people in the same room with the same 5 sounds and tell them come up with a melody, and you end up with 5 different melodies. So that always stuck with me, is that art is a renewable resource. So even if I hit like a lull or a slow point, like I just keep working, because at some point like I'm going to figure out something that works for me.
So you just got to push through it.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's rough. Sometimes you make a bunch of garbage in between it. Sometimes you just like feel like you can't do anything. But then there's that spark, that moment where you're like, oh, okay, I want to do this. Like I hadn't made like a song that I really liked for like a couple weeks. Chrono sent me a song that he was working on last night. I wrote a verse instantly and sent it back to him. So it's like moments like that. That's why I say it's like I don't seek out collabs or anything. Like if I feel inspired by something, then I feel inspired. If I don't feel inspired, I keep working on stuff, but I don't stop thinking that I'll ever have it. Like it comes and it goes.
So basically for you, even, any blocks or challenges that you've had, they don't create self-doubt.
Nah, I got enough self-doubt in the rest of my life to doubt myself over some.
Have you always been a confident artist?
Hell no.
No.
No, I didn't. I haven't been confident until like the last 6 years.
Is there some aha moment that finally you were like, I don't give a fuck?
Yeah, I did my first album on all original beats, and it didn't sound like ass. Because for the longest time, I was worried about like doing songs over original beats because I didn't feel confident in myself. And then finally, it's kind of like training wheels. I just took off the training wheels and said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And it didn't turn out bad. And then from that moment on, I just kept that same energy.
So you kind of saw your worth by seeing that growth.
Yeah, you can say that.
Nice. I like that. That's it can be really hard to, get through self-doubt, especially for artists. I mean, shit, I get it on every song almost. So definitely something to look up to is that, hey, everybody might have the aha moment for that self-doubt once they actually hear something and truly love it, because I've definitely had that with certain songs. Um, for other artists that might, be juggling with self-doubt or, self-critique criticism, do you have any type of advice on how to, I guess, overcome that?
Find your worst song and then listen to that back to back with what you think is your best song, and realize potential.
Damn. That's really good. Some good advice.
Yeah, I can go listen to some songs that I have from 20 years ago and just shake my head, but then I can go back and play stuff that I've made in the last several years and be happy with myself.
So when in doubt, go listen to your bad shit and listen to your good set and see that you're a freaking rock star.
Yeah, or realize that you still suck and give up.
Oh Jesus. For a couple more, I guess, dice questions. The man behind the music. What are some of the things in life that have inspired, outside of the music industry, that have inspired, your music? Different things
Things in
happening.
life, shit,
Yeah.
just life itself. I think most of my
We
music
have
is
a lot of sad boy music.
most of my life is inspired by either things that I've been through or things that I watch people around me go through. So I think that's probably just the biggest content driver for me. I feel
Does
like
your family? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
no, I was just saying I feel like, I don't go out to clubs. I don't like have this extravagant lifestyle. So most of what you hear, I feel like somewhere, somehow I have some sort of song that relates to something somebody's gone through.
Is that one of your goals with your music, is to make sure that it's relatable to uh, somebody,
No,
anybody?
my goal for my music is to satisfy my endless need to hear things that appeal to me. They just so happen to resonate with other people that hear them. But I make music for me to enjoy first and foremost. Like, I don't listen to the radio. I tell people all the time, I don't know if people necessarily believe me, but outside of the review shows that we have on the server, I don't listen to music. I don't even listen to my favorite artists anymore. Like, if they came and they performed across the street, I'm not gonna go buy a ticket. I'm not a fan of music. I'm a maker of music. And I think that was one transition that I made that made my music better, because I used to listen to music every day. Like, I wake up, press play on a playlist with thousands of songs and just let it play throughout the day, like every day for years and years. And once I stopped doing that, like, my music became more centered around me and my life and less about like emulating the things that I heard or the things that I think people wanted to hear. So like, first and foremost, I just make music to add to my own personal playlists. Like, if you like them, then that's great. If not, I'm just going to continue to add to my own playlist.
I like that. Does your family contribute to your creative process at all?
Nah, not really.
No, your son doesn't. Have you ever
He's
made
not,
music with him?
nah, he's not into music. He's into Roblox and YouTube.
Yeah, most kids are. Um, I'm sure he would make songs with you.
Nah, I
If
don't
he
think
said,
the only time he has a keyboard, the only time he uses it is when his friends are over there and they want to bang on his keyboard. But other than that, he could care less.
Maybe if it's something you guys are doing together, he'd care.
Nah.
For the responsibility of being a dad, how has that shaped your perspective on your music? Has it changed your music at all?
Nah, hasn't changed my music. I don't think it has. I mean, I don't do anything different necessarily, other than sometimes I'll make reference to him, but nah, it doesn't change my music. Sometimes I wonder. I don't know. I posed this question in the lounge once, but kind of just blew over everybody. But I always wonder, like, the people who have kids, what would their kids think if they went back and listened to their catalog? So sometimes I ponder that, like, wonder what kind of life story my music necessarily tells, but at the same time, like, I feel like at least it's an honest one. So, but me making music, it doesn't necessarily change that whenever I go to actually record or write something.
Okay. Do you find it making music it got harder, obviously being a parent, than prior, adding on that aspect of life?
I make more music now than I did then. I mean, I guess obviously I sleep less, but I feel like that's just like a casualty of my day job also becoming more important, not necessarily having a kid.
Okay. I know that sometimes, a lot of I've seen artists, basically kind of stop their careers, for children. So it's like, were they unable to balance that, or does something change? I don't have kids, so
There,
oh,
me personally, I just feel like they're unable to balance it. Like if you want something, you want it, and if you feel like you can't make music because you have kids and a family, then you don't want to make music. Like that's why I said like I go to sleep at 3 a.m. because like midnight hits and I'm like, yo, I want to do something. Either I want to play a game, I want to make music, I want to mix music, I want to look for beats. Like if you don't want to do that stuff and you think, oh, sleep is more important, then that's on you. I'm not saying it's a bad decision. I'm not saying it's the wrong. Everybody's different, but I want to make music. So from midnight till 3 a.m., I will make music. I sacrifice my sleep for it. And if that's not your priority, then that's not your priority. But I would never use family or my job as an excuse to not make music. That just means like I'm gonna just lose some sleep that night.
you got to find where to sacrifice, and you sacrifice your sleep. How do you stay awake at your real job, your day job?
I don't put my head down during meetings, even if I'm not the focal point.
I will literally sleep sitting up. So
I mean, I've,
that would
I've
have.
definitely fallen asleep during some meetings on some days where I probably stayed up way later than I should have. But that's why I said, as long as I don't put my head down or lean my chair back and close my eyes, I'm good. If I'm awake, I'm awake until I decide, let me close my eyes, and then I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble. You'll be
Yeah.
out for days. What's the longest that you've ever slept when you've fallen out?
During a meeting,
Yeah.
like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Like I've woken up sometimes and like I'm the only one left in the fucking meeting and they're waiting for me in another meeting. I hate that shit. Like now, like if you don't
I think
leave
it's the worst when that's the same meeting room for a different meeting, and they're like,
we at least don't have that problem here. But it's like if the person who hosts the meeting doesn't end meeting for all, like you'll be the only one fucking sitting there, and you just got to pretend like, oh, I got so many windows open, I forgot. Like, nah, I was asleep.
oh man.
But that only happened to me like twice.
Yeah. Definitely burning both ends of the wick. It seems like you have the ability to balance, which is crazy because I know a lot of people don't. That's one of my biggest issues is balancing everything. Like one of the leading causes of my divorce. But for that being said, well, that's because I prioritized music. How on the other end of it, how would you, I guess, for someone in like a relationship with a kid, how do you make it so then your partner also feels prioritized with your music, especially if you're putting so much into it?
I mean, spend time with your family at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
if my son needs something, I'll stop what I'm doing. Like if your family, like, and that's why I said like it's a personal choice. If your family needs something, obviously, like, you know, be there for your family. But that's why I say like my choice is to sacrifice sleep. Like I might not make any music between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. But if I have something on my mind that I want to do, as soon as everything that I need to do for the day is done, then that's my opportunity. So that's why I say I sacrifice my sleep, because I'm passionate about music that I want to make or music that I want to mix or things that I want to do and invest in. But if that's not your passion, that's not your passion. I'm certainly not saying that people need to like kick their families to the curb and all that other stuff. Like take care of your responsibilities, but fuck,
For
it doesn't
sure.
mean that you can't be an artist. And that's kind of circles back to like what the first question you asked me is like, just because you have a family and you have a day job doesn't mean you can't make art.
Hmm. For sure. Definitely, definitely facts. It is hard to balance and do everything, and it's ever changing, but it can definitely be done. You're definitely proof. You have so many albums and so much music out. Closing up, I got a couple more questions about, I guess, the future of um, the music industry. What are your thoughts on it, and where do you see it heading? What type of changes do you see coming, especially with everything that has happened with all of the allegations a couple months ago and things still coming out here and there.
The music
Do you
industry
feel like the
sucks.
industry is volatile?
Do I feel like what?
It's going to come crashing down and rebuild?
It's not going to come crashing down, but we are, I guess, approaching a change of the guard, which I think all industries are, where the people who were key players for the last 20, 30 years are dying or retiring. So figuring out what direction the new leaders are going to take it will be interesting, but it's definitely not crashing. It's not going away. It's just evolving into some new bullshit that we have to figure out how to be relevant in.
Where do you see WCR's place in it?
Probably folding and collapsing on butt jokes and other raunchy shit.
Collapsing on butt joke.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. Like, my biggest thing is at some point, I wish that I could get funding to turn this into like some sort of creative outlet that invests in people. Why is VA calling me?
He's
We
trying to
hung up.
sacrifice you for cash.
He's trying to sabotage everything that I've built in the last 2 years.
He loves you.
No, he doesn't. He wants to see me fall and collapse like the Roman Empire.
So if the Roman Empire of music falls and WCR rises,
Hold on, he's calling again.
all right, take the call.
Shut up and talk to me nice.
What do you want? I'm on the line with Nikki. Hold on. God damn it. Oh, he hung up. Let me call him back.
Okay.
Nah, he says he hung up, so he won.
If you would like to, please deposit 25 cents.
Deposit 25 minutes. This ain't no penitentiary.
If you would like to keep the call, please deposit 25 cents.
Who has quarters in 2024? Deposit on the damn cell phone.
The collect call number you have dialed is no longer in service.
Broke ass can't even pay your phone bill. All right.
Mm-mm.
That's the shit that I got to put up with.
But you love it. Come on. So for Pair-A-Dyce in the up and coming future in the industry, where do you see your music heading, and what changes are we to anticipate in any type of Pair-A-Dyce stuff happening?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to finish these 6 albums that I have planned. Probably not gonna get them all done. Well, I might get them all done, but not all released the end of this year. But I think my main focus next year is probably going to shift to production and then making more music for sync placements. I don't think there's a lot of opportunity in the hip hop space, and I can't sing. 'Cause if I could sing, I would just take my shirt off and like sing in the rain and post videos of that every day. Hopefully, attract a nice young lady. So I'll be more realistic, and I'll just try to do sync placements and maybe make a career off of that. Or I'll just give up.
Ladies, you heard that? Dice is looking for a nice young lady.
Or I'm just looking for a guy to sing, and I'll just do lip singing. You can do all the vocals, and I'll take all the credit like Milli Vanilli. We can be a team.
Or guys, there's a collab opportunity afoot. If you can sing.
If you can sing and you're ugly, hit me up. I'll help you out.
So for the Discord and the community as a whole, obviously you said you want to see, it grow and you be able to help people and such. For WCR, do you feel that there's a specific, I guess, trajectory that we're going in, in more of a artist management where we're helping, younger artists to get up, or do you see us going more in an opposite direction where we are hosting more collabs and such like that?
Neither. I feel like we're going to move towards services because try the investment. Yeah, mixing, producing.
That'll service you.
Mixing, producing, guest verses. I feel like we're moving more towards that because investment is hit and miss. Like I've invested in so many people over the last year and heard back from very few of them. So, not that I mind doing that, but that seems like a money pit of endless despair of struggling artists who make horrible music. So that's more of just like I think that's a charitable donation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we're at a point where we would be managing people's careers unless they wanted to pay us to do that. So I feel like it's just going to shift towards services of like, hey, you suck at mixing or you don't know how, just pay us to do it. Or you need a beat.
WCR University.
You need a beat, buy it from us. So I think it's going to shift more towards that. Not to say that any of those other things could never happen, but one thing that I learned across some people in the industry is like you guys got to jump on what's actually hot. If it's working, then jump on that. And right now, the one thing that I think is primarily working is the review show. So maybe I'll look at spinning back up another review show at some point, lose some more sleep.
I don't think you should lose some more sleep. You only have 2 hours left to lose based on your dice rundown. So I have been doing, a toolkit for all the artists that I am interviewing for, 5 things for new artists or tenured artists to take on their journey and take on their way, things to think back on. We've had different stuff from everyone. Do you have any specific pieces of advice that artists could use at their disposal? I do have a couple things from, that we've gone over, but anything specific?
Yeah, if you suck at something, stop doing it. I don't want to keep listening to the same shit every week.
Okay, I will try to put that in a little. If you suck at something, maybe try doing it differently or do something else. He's like,
Do
no,
better.
stop. Do better. Definitely come to us for advice, though. Yes.
I mean, even if you don't come to us for advice, like play it for your mom. If your mom say, "Mom, I found this new artist on the internet. What do you think of it?" If your mom says it's just ass, it's ass.
Oh, don't even tell her that it's you. You think your mom would recognize your voice?
Not everybody's moms. I mean, some people don't even talk to their mom. They just lock themselves in their room and masturbate feverishly all day.
Jesus fuck. All right. All right. On that note, I do feel like we've gone through a lot of the different stuff with the industry, which is definitely a side I did want to pick on a little bit more with you, seeing as I know a lot of your experience in it. And I think that you are a valuable resource for a lot of the new artists that do come into our community because of your extensive knowledge in that. So I definitely appreciate you sharing all that here. Is there any other last words that you want to say that I won't have to mouth under my breath at?
You threw a curveball there. You
Would
limit my
not have to mouth under my words or under my
Yeah.
breath.
you limit my options with that last caveat there.
There you go, Ray. He's got a stack a month if you can package and promote him.
I got you.
I know, a stack of probably plain chips or maybe crackers.
As long as it's not spades, I'll listen to what Ray Stans has to say. But I've seen the man play spades, and I'm out if it has anything to do with spades.
Ray can't play spades. Do you know how to play euchre?
The fuck is euchre?
Spades, but like it's not always spades. That's Trump.
Spades, but Caucasian.
Yes, Canadian. I don't know. It might be Canadian. It's euchre.
Probably then. I mean, I can
It's
play.
like spades, but anything can be trumped depending on what's flipped up.
Okay, so Caucasian spades. Okay. Yeah, I know how to play euchre.
Wiki spades.
Any last parting words? I don't know, man. Like, if you enjoy what you do, just do it. It's basically the motto you should live by with all aspects of your life, not music, like family, friends. Like I said, I mean, same with music. Like if you feel passionate about something, you'll find a time for it. If you like your friend enough, you'll make time to visit your friend. Can't tell you how many people said driving 30 minutes is not happening for them. Well, shit, guess we aren't friends anymore.
That's
so
crazy.
Like, yeah, so
I
like
drive
yeah, so like if you like something, you'll make time for it. And if you find yourself being like, man, I really wish I had spent more time doing this, you probably don't like it that much. That's all I gotta say.
So yeah, y'all, if you don't make time for it, then you might not love it.
Facts.
Damn, that makes me feel like shit.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just like maybe at wherever you are in life, it doesn't fit. You could still love it, but maybe you don't love it as much as you think you love it. And that's okay.
See, Ray loves euchre. Anyways. You're like, exactly. Milk spades.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at spades too. I'm good at euchre though. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me and Dice tonight and listening to me kind of get a little bit deeper with Dice on some things that maybe we didn't know about him. I hope that everybody takes something with them tonight and it's not, a part of Dice. It's just a piece of his advice. It's like, wait, what?
What does that mean?
What, Dice?
I said, what does that mean?
I don't know. I'm just talking. But I don't know how to rate people yet, so we're just going to drop off. I know it's probably just a command, but I hope that y'all have a beautiful week, and we will see you on Wednesday for the review show and Sunday for the Sunday show, and our next Joe Jam, I believe, is the second week of August, depending on if Dice can make it or not. And we'll probably be doing Lethal Company again. The 10th. August 10th, Dice. Maybe. We just finalized that today, so let us know. But anyways, definitely see you guys on Wednesday. We do start at like 7:30ish Eastern time. So All right, love y'all. Have a good week.
Yeah.
Bye. Yeah.